Hi everyone, this is your VP of Membership with the ATD Eastern Pennsylvania chapter. My name is Jennifer Thompson, and today I have with me Dr. Cheryl Arndt, who did a presentation for us on data visualization. Cheryl, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's very nice to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background? Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I am Pennsylvania, born and bred, Berks County, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Not far from there now, in Lehigh. I spent most of my 20s living in a number of different places around the world, really, and I'm happy that I've been back ever since, between the potato fields and the cornfields of Lehigh County, as I say.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
So can you tell us about your background educationally? I know you have more than one degree, obviously, if we're calling you doctor. So could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. All my degrees are in psychology. Initially, I started out on a clinical track, so my master's has more of a clinical bent, although I've been recalling recently that I had a professor back when I was an undergrad who said, you know, you're really good at this statistics stuff. Maybe you should go into that side of the field. And at that time, I remember saying, oh, I just want to help people. So I ran a lot of social service programs for many years. And in one of those positions, I ended up starting to work with data under the need of them becoming Joint Commission accredited. So I've worked with a lot of accreditation data. And then from there, I moved into LVHN and doing outcomes measurement for a large $9 million grant at the LVHN, the Valley Health Network Department of Education. And I've also done a lot of teaching through the years, online, in the classroom, everything from community college up through graduate school.
Very nice, very nice. So what made you interested in ATD? Can you tell me about that? Because I don't think many people, when they're in undergrad, maybe grad school, think about ATD and the fields that it encompasses.
Yeah, well, like I said, well, my doctorate then is where I really focus on the data and the statistics and things. So when I was hired at LVHN Department of Education to be their educational outcomes specialist, a number of the people in that department were members of ATD, and that's how I found out about it. A lot of people in the Lehigh Valley community, including myself till I was hired there, don't realize that LVHN has so much higher education as well as training. So in the Department of Education is the graduate medical education, undergraduate medical education, nursing education, and then all the training that takes place for the 18,000 employees all comes through the Department of Education. So it's a fairly large department within the health network. So a number of people in that department were involved in ATD, and my boss suggested that I attend the national conference that was held in DC in 2019, specifically because they have an outcomes and metrics track.
Right.
So that ended up being very useful for me. A number of things that I learned there. I mean, of course, you know, the Kirkpatricks are there, you know, so there's all the Kirkpatrick for the levels and the new Kirkpatrick levels and things like that. Attended a couple of sessions with them. And then also just a lot of talk about developing scientifically sound outcome measures, tying outcomes to return on investment, tying learning goals to business goals, measuring the impact of microlearning. There were just a lot of really fascinating and thought-provoking sessions. I picked up a number of books and a number of good ideas there.
Yeah, you know, I remember that myself when I attended national conference. I think it's one of the highlights of my career.
Yes. Yeah.
So what would you say, what advice would you give for training and development professionals who may not be measuring outcomes at this point? Where would someone start if they've not been practicing this?
Well, I think that where a lot of people do well is in defining what the outcomes are of specific trainings. So, most people, I think, at the beginning of their PowerPoint or whatever it may be, will list, by the end of this training, a lot of sort of Bloom's taxonomy type of words, like you will be able to define, discuss, understand, list, or, those kind of things. Whatever the topic may be, that you'll be able to describe that or give examples of, or that kind of language. So I think a lot of people do really well at the individual training level, but when it gets into the aggregate is where things can get a little trickier. And so I think a good place to start is to try to define some of the outcomes that you're looking for that cut across all of your trainings. So, there's the whole net promoter score, or would you recommend this to others, or how satisfied were you, or to what extent will you be able to apply this to your job. And then another place after that starting point, another sort of stumbling block that a lot of people bump up against, I think, is you can ask people how they intend to apply something to their job. However, that's not really a behavioral observable measure. So you're asking them, you're measuring their intent. So where it becomes really tricky and getting really good outcomes is measuring, were they able to apply it when they got back to the job? To what extent did it influence their performance or their comfortability or their confidence? Or asking supervisors, did you see an improvement in the productivity of your employee after this training was attended? So those could be challenging metrics to get to, but very, very important to get a handle on.
I agree. I think also with ROI and these metrics, I think it's a good tool to use for buy-in. If you are someone that has to convince others within the organization to go in a certain direction for training or development, whatever, I always found it very persuasive with the executive C-suite. What do you think about that? Did you find the same?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, also, internal and external stakeholders, because sometimes you may be, like in the case of LVH, and you may be reporting to a grant funding organization that may have supported your training program. So they certainly want you to be able to answer the question, what impact did our dollars have on the either productivity or or some measure of employee success.
Mm-hmm. So Cheryl, can I ask you if individual members want to contact you, or companies who are members of our organization, even with outside our organization, how would someone get in touch with you to talk more about this?
Yep, Gmail is good. It's cheryl.m.arndt, ARNDT @gmail, and also LinkedIn is a good place to find me as well.
Okay, great. Cheryl, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you more.
All right, thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.